Well, hey there, what time is it? You know what time it is. It's time for Wheel of Warhammer. Let's click. Let's see what we get. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Big money, big moon, boop, boo. No, Skaven. Okie dokie, that's cool. Let's try out Skaven. I love little Ratmen. I love Ratmen. I say, hey, Ratmen, you want to be my friends? And they're like, yeah.
Well, okie dokie, artichoke. So we got Skaven. Uh, I think Skaven are pretty cool. They're probably one of my favorite factions in Warhammer Fantasy to begin with. I just think they're neat. I've always liked them. I think they're also think that they have fun ideas of just being neat little ratmen, and I want to pet their heads even though they scream and try to shoot people who do that. And I've seen them do it. Um, but I was unsure who I really wanted to pick. However, I knew a little bit about how Claw played. And out of all those clans, I think Eshin and Scryer are my favorite in terms of like the four great clans. There are some really fun smaller clans, like Clan Scurvy, I think is pretty fun. It's basically just a bunch of Skaven pirates. I think they're pretty cool. Clan Wars is, big warrior clan. That's all kinds of fun stuff. I can't remember what the clan is called, but there's a lot of little clans. It's really cool actually, but there's a smaller clan that like paints themselves like bony and they like wear bones and stuff like that because they're always fighting the undead. And I think those are pretty cool. In one of the previous editions of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, there was a supplement called Children of the Horned Rat, or Horned Rat, not Horned Rat. Children of the Horned Rat, and you could basically make your own Skaven clan in like using the stuff in that book, and I always thought that was really cool and fun, and I really enjoyed that sort of thing, and I really enjoyed messing around with the idea of Skaven. And of course, if you've listened to me play before, you probably know I'm not super into evil type races. I'm not really into the stuff where it's like they're all evil and everything, but I noticed that mechanically they felt less like I wasn't having to like collect slaves. It was just food, and we could pretend all kinds of things about food. I'm teaching them to eat lots of ketchup. They like the ketchup. Anyway, yeah, I rather like Skaven overall. And I like their guns. I have an attraction to, I guess the five, I guess five like official races in fantasy that were like actual factions you could play on the tabletop. That had gunpowder, which is the Empire, dwarves, um, Ogre Kingdoms, Skaven, and technically Chaos Dwarves. They're kind of weird. You can kind of sorta do them. I don't know exactly how it worked, but there was a big book. It was like I think like Technicon or Technicon. It was like a big supplement that you could use, and it had like Chaos Dwarf rules in it. And you can get Chaos Dwarfs from Forge World, which this was of course Forge World resin, which I would not recommend Forge World resin, but still, I was having a lot of fun, and I kind of came to this realization that I just like little guys. I like using, you know, um, smaller type infantry. I just think they're fun, whether it's dwarves or skinks or skater or goblins too. My working goblin army was honestly vast majority goblins because I liked goblins a lot. I think goblins are cool, especially night goblins. Um, I didn't really use the under Empire mechanic at all. I don't know, it's just never been my style. My style's always been, I guess, more aggressive, taking over as much land as possible, making sure that people can't move over me or move around me, and that I have larger armies. And it was a lot of fun to just mess around with that sort of thing. I also really like this element where I could spend food as a resource to get bigger settlements, and I ended up doing this um, a couple of times so that I could get like much bigger settlements the second I colonize them and have them like really beef up my production and also just beef up in general, all my troops and all this other stuff. And because I was going with Scryer and I had read a little bit about the strategy of using Scryer, I was using a lot of guns. Or I was trying to use a lot of guns, a lot of rattling guns. And a lot of Jezzails and warp fire throwers, and as soon as I unlocked um warp lightning cannons, I ended up using a bunch of those. I think they're pretty cool. And overall, I was having a pretty good time with the Skaven, honestly. I was enjoying myself. I like their wacky experiments. I like being the wacky. I am the wacky. I mean, look at me. Look at how wacky I am. Very wacky. Anyway, and I greatly enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the area I started in. I mean, things were kind of green, and I kind of like that as I spread out. And at first, I tried to go west, but the Bray herds very early on decided to start being a big problem, and yeah, I ended up spreading elsewhere. There's also this mechanic as Ikit, which is the Forbidden Workshop, where you could upgrade all kinds of crazy things for your teams and all that fun stuff. And I really liked it. I saw someone mention that on board compactor was apparently really good because it basically gave your troops like infinite ammo, more or less, and you could really use a lot of those. You could really use a lot of those guys to do a lot of damage, and yeah. The only problem is, of course, if you have like nothing but rattling guns, it turns out there's a lot of things that can just run up and smack you. But with enough bullets, anything is no longer a problem. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was really enjoying them. I think I could see playing a whole campaign with them. And honestly, after I recorded the video and let the thing process and all that, I still ended up um, playing for a while afterwards, and I ended up took a little bit, but we beat Warzog and we started heading east and going further and further east, to the point where I got almost up to Clan Moors, and then they decided that they didn't like me, so then they declared war on me when I didn't give them a very small payment. I was like, I don't feel like paying you. And, we ended up beating them, but it took a lot of troops and it took a lot of stuff like that. I also ended up fighting a lot of different people. I ended up being more warlike in this campaign than I was expecting myself to be, but I ended up defending my borders, and my ultimate plan was I wanted to try and befriend, Bretonia or the Empire. Didn't get around to it. In terms of whether or not I would play them, I definitely would play them again. Um, they kind of reminded me more of the Empire than I was expecting. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the guns thing and me trying to immediately, as quickly as I can, get to guns. But uh, I ended up having a pretty good time with the Skaven, and I would definitely recommend them if you just want to try out something different. And Skaven and Lizardmen are two of my favorite groups within Warhammer Fantasy, and also Warhammer Age of Sigmar. From the little bit I've read, I rather enjoy them, even though they're on like opposite ends of the spectrum. And in Age of Sigmar, they're now Chaos Race, and Seraphon are trying to smash Chaos, which understandable, very good. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed the Skaven, and I would definitely recommend trying them out. I don't know about the other warlords, but it's also kind of fun because I mean, look, I got a silly little, a silly little. Uh, I just forgot the name of that thing. I was like warp grinder, but that's not right because the warp grinder is the thing where it's just like a piece of warp stone on the end of a big drill thing. Anyway, but yeah, I really love it. I love all their wacky inventions, and I think it was a really good idea. Or well, I say good idea, but it was just random on a wheel. But it was really good to try them out. So anyway, thanks so much for stopping by, and I love you, and God loves you, and bye, I love you, bye. Have a great one, and remember to say hi to rats.